Welcome to the Boss Woman Network podcast, CEOess Era Conversation. Today I am joined with Ms. Terri Mouten, AI strategist for business leaders and the founder of Your Business Problem Solver. Terri helps organizations make AI simple enough for everyday teams to understand, practical enough to create real results. What I love about her story is that she doesn't just teach AI from a technical place. She teaches it from a place of empowerment, legacy, and real life transformation. Terri has been in business for 15 years, and for the last 3 years, she has pivoted into AI strategy and training after ChatGPT was released. She immediately saw that business owners, leaders, and everyday professionals needed to understand how to use AI with confidence and clarity. She also believes that AI is the great equalizer, a tool that can help people change the trajectory of their family tree and build a true legacy. So welcome, Terri, to the show. Tell us about who you are and what led you into business consulting.
Leilani, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate being here. So just from a business consulting standpoint, even before AI came into place, I grew up in a family-owned business. So my dad is actually 80 years old, and we've had a family-owned restaurant for 50 years.
Wow.
Yes, ma'am. And so I saw growing up firsthand how important it is to be able to have access to resources, information, and a lot of things that we just didn't have in our community. And I saw my dad go through trial and error in building his business over the years. And I knew very early on that regardless of what I might have been doing in industry or working for a company, my heart is with especially small businesses who really have the same dreams as someone who has access to hundreds of millions of dollars. And I wanted to make sure they had the resources and tools they wanted. So that's how I got into business consulting.
Oh, that is pretty cool. Um, so were you like hands-on in the business, like as a you kind of helped out in the business as well? Like even though you watched your dad build it, were you actually kind of learning business by helping out and being in the business too?
100%. So I'm the oldest daughter, the oldest of two. So I had no choice but to
Oh,
work in the business. So it was literally
oh,
from the
okay.
time I was, 5, 6 years old, I was working in the business. So I and experienced all parts of the business. One of the things my dad taught me was that's so important, and I always keep with me, and I also teach to my daughter, is he always says, do what you love and love what you do. But he also
Mm,
says, in terms of business, you have to, and especially at brick and mortar for sure, you have to be willing to do every facet of the business. He said, you can't just outsource
so,
everything. So whether it's, scrubbing the toilet, emptying the trash, mopping the floor, he said, you need to do it and do it with the same level of pride that you want people to perceive you as
mm,
having. So in that business, like Lonnie, I'll tell you, I learned just a couple of brief things that I learned above and beyond. Again, just whether it's cooking or how to serve, people. I learned from him hustle, and that's where I get my work
mm,
ethic from. When he started the business, he was actually working at one of the local plants in our area. And so the business for him started out kind of being a side hustle. But I saw my dad work full time at a plant. He opened this business. He would, when he needed to, he would sell cars. He's an amazing salesperson. That's where I get my sales ability from. He would sell
wow.
cars at the local Ford dealership. He would do whatever he needed to do to make sure we were as comfortable, as we could be as a family that he could go out and provide. So I learned my hustle from him. I also learned from him the ability to speak to anyone, and again, to really bring people into my world by getting into their world, whether it's somebody with
Mm,
a PhD or a doctorate degree, or if it's somebody that, again, might not have any level of education. And so
mm,
I learned that by being at the restaurant, watching how he communicated with people. And then the last thing I learned from him is whatever you do, again, as I said earlier, do what you love what you do. But when you have the ability to build a legacy that lives beyond you, do it.
Ah, ooh, that's some great advice for the listeners. That is amazing. So your dad did construction. He worked in construction during the day. He sold
He was
cars.
actually a buyer. He was a buyer at a plant, or worked in a machine shop at a plant.
Wow,
Sold cars, had the restaurant, and whatever he needed to do to legally to
that's
help
amazing.
provide.
So he taught you early on to, you don't have to just go in one direction because a lot of people go to college or find a trade and then they're just one dimension, just do that one thing. But your dad taught you that you can go in different directions and kind of build in all areas at once. That
Absolutely.
is
And that's
pretty.
one of the things I encourage people today to do. Don't get stuck in, this is all I know to do, this is all I can do. You've got more skill sets than you realize. You've got to be able to access those skill sets. You've got to be able to pivot when you need to, because there's so much
Mhm.
opportunity.
Yes. That is great. That is great. So tell me this. Your business is called Your Business Problem Solver. What problem were you seeing that made you choose this work?
What I was seeing is that, back to small businesses, they didn't know what they didn't know. Often they
Mm,
got into business because somebody told them, girl, you do the best hair ever, or you make the best brownies, or they had a skill set. They knew they could do taxes really well. So people started asking them to help with taxes and helping with finances. So they had a skill set, but they didn't know how to operate a business. So that's what
mm,
made me come up with the name is, again, I know you've got the business, but I know you also have problems with that
mm.
business from an operation standpoint and getting it going and scaling and moving. Let me help.
Yeah. Wow. So for instance, what do you do when you go in? Like you just evaluate what they're doing now and then try to find the gaps, what's going on within the business and how you can see where you can kind of assist them in their business. For an example, a restaurant. Have you had to work with a restaurant and go in and help them kind of strategize their business because they were running it, but it wasn't fully run like a business?
Correct. So yes, now keep in mind, 3 years ago, I completely pivoted my business and that's back
Mm,
to being able to see opportunity and be able to pivot when you
mhm.
need to. So where I was doing
Right.
more of the general kind of business consulting and business coaching, 3 years ago, I immediately switched, and the focus is on being able to utilize AI in a business
Ah,
or an organization or as a professional.
that's a big help. That is a big help. So you started training people on AI shortly after ChatGPT came out. What did you see early that made you say, people need to understand this?
Great question, Leilani. And I tell people I am the most non-tech AI strategist or AI trainer that you'll come across. I don't have an IT background. I've got 25 years of sales, marketing, business development, entrepreneurship. And at the time when ChatGPT came out, November of 22, I was working full time for a company. I was in marketing, but I had been doing the business coaching and consulting on the side. And I'm like, well, what's this ChatGPT thing? And immediately
Hmm.
I could connect the dots from a business standpoint. And I said,
Makes
no,
sense.
but this is bigger than business. I said, everybody, whether it's a nonprofit, students, education, everybody needs to know about this. And I'm not a gatekeeper. And like Lonnie, I wasn't even thinking at the time about turning the AI piece to a business model. I just knew
Yeah.
I had to tell people, you've got to know this. And I just started reaching out locally to the
Hmm.
different women's organizations I was in, business organizations, different small businesses, and said, hey, let me come in and let me show you some things. So as I was learning, I immediately went out and started teaching. What I didn't realize though was, because if you think back to very early on, again, and I was doing this training by January of 23. Early on, those that were doing training were typically, again, the IT people, the data
Right.
scientists, and
That's
that
true.
type of thing. And it went over their heads because they're so technical. No shade to them. They're great in their lane, but it was so technical, it would go over the heads of the non-tech business professionals. And when
Right.
people heard me and didn't see me just do a slideshow, saw me in and out of ChatGPT showing them how to use it and what they could do, that's when it picked up and I started getting requests to come in. And then I'm like, the business sense kicked in. I was like, I need to pivot and turn this into my business model. So that's what happened.
So some of the challenges I know when you're dealing with a small business is, well, from my own experience, a lot, not even just business, organizations altogether, sometimes they're skeptical about the AI and it's kind of hard to get them to see the bigger picture. How did you get to have them to understand the process to where they trusted the AI implementation?
Great question. A lot of it initially started with they had to see ways they could use it personally in their lives.
Mm.
And so that's a lot of, I would show a few little kind of use cases, how they could use it personally. Again, if they could use it as, and above and beyond just emails and things like that, because that's where everybody kind of started. I'm going to do
Yeah.
emails and, okay, now I'm graduating to doing social media posts. But I would show them, okay, personally, look at it in terms of what do you need to be doing personally if you're a career professional? How can you get upskilled even more? And AI aside, what are the other skill sets you need to be able to get your next promotion? If you're looking at starting
Mm.
a business again, how do you use it for, and you don't know what business to start, kind of identifying, have it ask you questions, have it ChatGPT ask you questions and find out, well, what are you good at? What is it that you might be able to start a business in that still has a need? But just showing them how to use it personally often open them up to being more receptive to saying, okay, now I can see, let's look at how it can be used in the business. But it all went back to the way I spoke, demonstrated, and trained was very different from what they heard in that high tech level from a lot of other professionals.
The last thing I heard you say was, are you receptive?
Oh, yes. So it was them being receptive because of
Mm.
the way I trained. So that I already kind of knocked out that first hurdle because as they heard me kind of work with them, so actual use cases they could easily do, it was a very different experience from when they were again listening to the data scientist or the IT person. So that's what
That
opened
makes
up
so
the
much
door
sense.
to them being receptive.
That makes so much sense. So what do you mean by the great equalizer? You call it that. What does that mean to you?
So what that means to me is as as a woman, as a woman of color, especially, that often we kind of get caught into and so, because just of how the world has been, how the country has been, we get kind of put in the position of thinking, okay, I can't, I grew up on the wrong side of the tracks. I don't have the same level of education somebody has. I don't have the funds to start a business like somebody else may have been given. And what I tell people now is having access to AI, the reason it's an equalizer because now you have access to the same levels of information other people have. Other people that again have whatever education or live in the country club or even the networks they have because of using AI, you can understand better now how to grow your networks and specifically who to grow your networks with. That for me is why it is truly when you know how to use it and take advantage of it, it's an equalizer.
I love that. That was a great example of that because basically you're saying you're putting us on an even or equal playing field. Everybody, not
Absolutely.
everybody is far here and way down here. Now we can be on the same level because we have the tools to research and get the information that we need. And it can even help us build a business from scratch without having to go hire all these different people to kind of help guide us, our mentors. I mean, mentors are great, but then ChatGPT and all these AI things can actually become your mentor. So
Absolutely, absolutely, Leilani. And get what people typically had ahead of most people, what got them ahead was access to information. Now we
yes,
all have access to that information. We just need to know how to
yes,
access it.
how to access it. I love it. So, from a woman leader, a business owner who feels intimidated by AI, where should she start?
The first thing I tell people is I say, number one, you can't break AI. So what you have to do is find whatever kind of platform you feel comfortable with, whatever kind of large language model you feel comfortable with, and start there. Often, especially somebody that's brand new to it, I will say ChatGPT, since it was the first on the scene, it is very easy and very intuitive to use,
Yes,
very
yes.
user friendly, and
Mhm.
that's where you start. And here's two tips that I give people who haven't truly started yet, or maybe just kind of dipping their baby toe in it. Two tips to start getting better. Number one, and you have to use it every day. There's no getting around it. You've got to use it every day, but you've got to program yourself. And the way you do that, set a calendar reminder. Put on your calendar whatever time it is, if it's noon, if it's 5 p.m., but put a calendar reminder that will pop up and say, have I used AI today? If you've used it, great. If you have not used it, the next thing you do when that pops up, you ask yourself, you look back over your day and think, okay, what did I do today? You find one thing and then you go ask that AI platform, I was doing this today. How could you have helped me do this again better, more efficiently, quicker? What could you have helped me with? And it's going to spit some information back to you that'll blow your mind. So people just have to get used to asking, what can it do to help me? If it's something that's coming up in the week, you're like, hey, I have this coming up. How can you help me? But every day, start interacting with an AI platform and asking, what can you do to help me in this scenario?
I love that. So, if someone was to hire you and they start working with you, what is the first thing? Is that the first thing that you guide them on? Is ChatGPT, or do you work with other AI tools as well?
Great question. I do work with other AI tools. So I work with pretty much all, well, I work with Gemini. I work with Copilot. I'm just now kind of starting to dip my own toes into Claude. I was using it early on,
Yeah,
but Chat GPT was just, it knew me. I had trained it so well that it was
yes.
hard for me to move. But I am learning to function more in Claude. But the first thing that we sit down and really look at, I tell people, it's not it's not a tool choice, and especially when you're looking at a business owner, a leader, and whether you're a solopreneur or you have a team and you have a staff, it's not a tool choice, it's a people choice. And what I mean by that is, even as a solopreneur, you have to understand and start asking, and these are the questions I ask, why are you wanting to use AI? I know you hear about it everywhere, and I know you hear you can't be left behind. And you can't, don't get me wrong, you can't be left behind, but you've got to ask, why is it I want to use it? Just based on even some of the things I might have heard, what am I wanting to use it for? That type of thing is then going to start guiding you to, which tool or tools to use. Again, I go back to, if you need something that's user friendly and easy, kind of Chat GPT is that good first choice. Then we start looking at the business. Again, if it's a business owner or if it's a career professional, then we're looking at kind of what's going on in their career, where they're wanting to get, that AI can help them. If it's a business owner, it's what are the things that they need to first have a foundational understanding of how, and let's just say ChatGPT, how they can use ChatGPT. Because here's what I see too many people doing. They run out and they start buying these various tools. They want to automate absolutely everything. You shouldn't be automating everything. So first get a literacy and understanding of here's how I can just use ChatGPT on my own, how I can do deep research, how I can set up projects, how I can do those different things and it really benefit me. How to truly, be able to use this isn't two areas that people don't know about is the dictation, being able to use that microphone button that all of the platform have to speak your prompt versus typing your prompt. So I want them to have a good understanding of how to maneuver and what to use that platform for. Then we start identifying here are ways that we can start adding AI to processes and then slowly start doing that. But it is not about automating everything. It's not about having every tool in the world.
That is so true. How did AI help you work smarter? Are you as a solo entrepreneur? Or do you have a team?
I'm getting ready to start building my team because I'm getting to that point where I'm the bottleneck in my business from a capacity
Yes, that's what I
standpoint.
was going.
So yes, I'm getting ready to start adding a team. But how it has helped me is I can get through first and foremost deep research. When people understand how to utilize that deep research function,
Yes.
it puts you on it gives you such a catalyst in your business that the vast majority of people don't realize. And a great example, Leilani, I'll give you is so last year I did 63 speaking and training engagements, trained about and spoke to
Wow.
about 5,000 people. Last
Wow.
year, 2025, out of 5,000 people, there were less than 20 who knew about deep research and had actually gone and activated the deep research function in one of the large language models. And I tell people that is the biggest one of the biggest golden nuggets that's out there when you know how to operate it. So for me, deep research has been great because I can understand what's going on in various industries of clients that I'm working with or that I might be trying to attract. I can help understand my own and help clients be able to see, what are the psychographics of their ideal client. Well, Terri, what psychographics? That's, what are those ideal clients thinking when they go to sleep at night and they have a problem that you can solve? What's keeping them up at night? But so number one for me, deep research, true game changer. Number two, having the ability to go through a large amount of information and have AI be able to help synthesize the information, but synthesize it specifically for me and my business. I tell people, stop getting information for information's sake. We go out there and we consume all of this info. And a lot of times it's just kind of to say that we did it, but we're not applying it to our business. So AI has allowed me to whatever, if I'm listening to a podcast, that I'm uploading the transcripts and hey, I was listening, to Leilani's podcast. How can I add specifically what she said to my business and start doing it this week? Build me a roadmap. What can I start doing? So AI has allowed me to do that. I would say those are just the two biggest things under the deep research and being able to synthesize whatever I'm listening to or absorbing, how it applies specifically to my business.
I love that. So would you say that your main clients have been like beginner AI enthusiasts that just really need to understand AI, or you have a broad target market?
So it actually is a very broad target market, Leilani. I do have, again, and this is regardless of business size, but where the decision makers are new to kind of AI and really understanding it, I definitely have that market. Again, I've got the market of those who are kind of dipping their toes and starting to feel comfortable, and those who would consider themselves more power users in AI, who I don't typically I would probably say maybe work well with are those who are like super technical, because
Oh,
they're wanting more of, they're doing the build outs and those types of things. And I'm not a builder.
that
I
makes
don't
sense.
I don't do
Yeah.
the build outs and that type. So
Yeah, because they're going to be communicating in code, language, and all
yes,
those different things.
correct,
Yeah. And you
correct.
don't have to know code to do AI. So
No,
yeah, I definitely get what you're saying. Um, but I love what you're doing. So you said one of stress became one of your biggest flare triggers. What did that teach you about choosing yourself?
great question. So last June, June of 25, I was diagnosed with a rare autoimmune disorder. The same time, literally the same time, I was laid off from my day job because I was still kind of doing both, had a day job and was doing doing kind of my AI um, consultancy on the side. On top of that, uh, same time, knew I was probably heading to a divorce. And so, because for though anybody that has a chronic illness or an autoimmune illness, stress, if you don't know, stress is the biggest trigger that will keep you in a flare where you've got symptoms of that, like really
Oh,
strong symptoms of that disorder. And for me, those symptoms just kind of manifested in different ways. And
mm,
what I ended up doing was, again, I had to make a decision. Plus, at the time, my daughter was in um, was in her last year of her master's program um, at University of Texas at Austin. And so a couple of things made me say I needed to choose myself. Number one was going to be my health, because if I was going to, I know we have the time that God allows us. I believe, we all have a predetermined time, but I wanted to be as
yes.
healthy during the time I have as possible. So I knew I had to eliminate stress factors in my life everywhere I could. Number one. And number two, I chose myself because, and this is in terms of even the divorce, because I knew I also did not want to model for my daughter actions in a partner that she should not take.
Ah,
And
mm,
again, it was, kind of, it was enough blame, trust me, kind of to go around for, for both of us. However,
wow.
I knew there were certain things I did not ever want her to say, well, mom stayed through it, so I'm just going to stay through as well. So
Mm.
chose my health and chose being the model for my daughter, and kind of moving the way I ended up moving over the last year.
Wow, that's amazing strength. I don't even know how you did that. You say you had an autoimmune disease, you were laid off from work, and you were going through a divorce. Like how and did you have to go to therapy? Like how did you stay strong to be able to push forward through that process?
Yes, and that's another thing I encourage women, and especially women of color, because we have typically not grown up where, therapy was. I'm 53, I'm Gen X. I didn't grow up where therapy
Mm,
was a part of my life or my family, and that was things that, you know, other people did for whatever reason. Though that's people with that may have, whether it's depression or other types of kind of mental health challenges that they're going through. But then I
right.
started realizing, okay, well, no, I need it for me. And on top of that, I'm also a minister. So then there was that whole, well, Terri, because we here in the church will just pray. If you pray enough, there's God has therapists here for a reason. So yes, I am praying, I am having faith, but I also, wanted God to send me the right therapist who could help me
Yes.
get through. So yes, I did and still go through
Okay.
therapy to help get
Okay.
through some of those things. Yes.
Okay. So you do advise therapy to people
100%.
struggling.
100%.
Do you, so you feel that it has definitely helped you get over the hump and help you be able to press forward with that? What are some of the tools that can you share some of the tools that kind of helped you kind of push forward that you learned through therapy? Because I know it's a lot of women that's probably going through that experience or some of those experiences.
Absolutely. One is having someone else to talk to who you definitely need to have your, like I call your inner circle of maybe 2 or 3 friends who are always who are going to lead you the right way. But someone who is not a friend that's going to kind of just pump you up. What therapy helped me do was to have someone. She was a faith-based therapist, because that's what I was looking for. She was able to tie in scripture and the word to some of the things I was going through. She was able to ask me, and this is what I had never done before. And as women, we are so used to, again, whether you're in a marriage or whether it might be a single or a breadwinner or what have you, we are so used to just pushing through, putting our head down regardless of what's going on in life. Okay, that's going on, but I can't even look at it because I'm pushing through because I got to provide for the family. And so she
Yep.
helped me start to use my words in identifying how I felt. And I hadn't done that
Mm.
before. So those types
Mm.
of things started coming up. And again, in my background, I have never been, abused and that type of thing. Praise God.
Yeah.
But it allowed me to start putting words to what I was feeling. Then I could start kind of working through why I felt that way and putting, okay, well, Terri, is that true? You feel that way, but is that true? Is that a real
Mm.
truth that's happening? And then I identified, again, some truths that were, not really happening, just things that for years had been kind of laid on me. The other
Mm.
thing having a therapist did, because I got to a period of time, I would come to a session. I said, I don't even know what to kind of talk about or to ask or how to have you help me. And that's huge
Mm.
for someone just thinking about seeking therapy, because we don't know how they can help. But when she could start pointing out and just again kind of asking me questions to help identify how are ways that kind of she can help me be able to move forward in a manner that was like comfortable for me in moving forward.
Mm.
And the last thing I'll tell you, and this is AI related. There's a whole big old thing about AI and therapy, and so always seek professional help. So I'm not saying don't default it to AI, seek professional help. But I started using ChatGPT to coach me on kind of keeping my central nervous system intact and keep it under control, because I didn't realize the
Mm.
connection of when something is going on emotionally or something happens, we're like activating our central nervous system. You go into that
Yeah.
fight or flight type of mode. And again,
Mm-hmm.
especially women of color, we seem to just, it's so commonplace where we live in fight or flight. We've gotten used to it. And we shouldn't, but
Mm.
we've gotten used to it. So I would have Chat GPT kind of coach me and how to control my central nervous system. I was with my daughter, and she was looking at me one day. She's like, "Are you are you deep breathing?" So yes, because my Chat GPT, and I named it. I said, my Chat GPT, Michelle, is talking about controlling my central nervous system. I need to get your Chat GPT set up too, where it can coach you, because you need to learn it now.
Yes. I love that. Um, you said after being a sole provider for 15 years, and like you said, you made a decision to put yourself first after 21 years of marriage. What would you say to the women who know that she may need to make that hard decision but scared?
First thing I'll say again, I say pray about it. Absolutely pray about it, and then you've got to make the decision for you. It truly is a choice. And I hear so many, even now, so many women have kind of been talking to me about, Terri, I wanted to leave years ago, but the kids or the kids begged me not to leave. And I do get that. I understand. I get that. But it comes a time when you've got to do what's right for you and understand what you do good or bad, what we all do, it has an effect on our children. It's
Mhm.
but you just have to get to the point where the other thing I thought about, I had been married for 21, getting ready to be 21 years, and first, like when I was talking to my therapist, I was like, yes, yeah, I'm ready. But at first, I wasn't ready to make the decision. Kind of worked through it. Finally, got for me came to the point where I was ready, and then I was like, yep, I'm ready to go, and let's go with this. And then I started thinking, I'm 53. you on I don't want to die alone. Literally, that's what kind of
Mm.
comes up. I don't want to die alone. My daughter, and even now, I'm gonna be relocating soon, and my daughter and I are gonna be staying together and kind of building a life together. And I'm like, yes, she tells me now, oh mom, I want you to always, you can always be with me. I'm gonna get a house with a little
Oh.
casita on the side for you to live. I'm like, but one day she's gonna have, Lord willing, her own family, and that type of
Yeah.
thing. And I had to work through the feelings of, well, am I going to be okay being by myself long term? If it comes to that, being by myself long term. So those are things that, women really, you have to think through and start kind of being prepared for. I'm not going to, don't let it hinder you. That's why you need a therapist to help you think through those things. And, don't pull the trigger prematurely, but you've got to do what is right for you.
Mm. I love that answer. I saw something on social media where this therapist was talking and saying, and it was a therapist and a lawyer, and they were saying how women, when they get to a certain age, when they start reaching like perimenopause, menopause age, that a lot of them start wanting to get divorced because they start finding themselves, their hormones change, they start taking less uh nonsense, or they don't even want to deal with stress anymore. Anything that was ever a problem, they decide to just say, I'm too old for that. I'm not taking it anymore. And they start walking away from marriages. Is that something that you've seen as well?
100%, Leilani. In addition to myself, as I look around at, whether it's friends or colleagues and things like that, there's so many women, especially that 50-year mark, might be 50 and
Mm,
over, who have, and they can stand in their own right in terms of their career, their business, and it just dawns on them. And I think a catalyst for a lot of them, because I see it, a handful right now I'm thinking about that I've had conversations with over the past couple of months. A big catalyst is once that empty nest hits, when the kids
mm,
are out of the house, because so many times, again, we stayed together for the sake of the kids. Then when the kids get out, you have this test, I call it a test period of, was it only the kids holding us together, or can we survive, beyond children being out of the house? And a lot of times that's where it shows up that
mm,
no, it was the children, and no, I'm not willing, even though I love you, again, even though I may love you, even though, and even if you are a quote unquote good person in terms of the significant other, even if you are a good person, there may just be too many things that you are not providing to me, and I'm just not willing to take it anymore. And my dad used to tell me when I was growing up, you can do bad all by yourself.
they do say that. Moms too. Um, I love your story. When people hear your story and experience your work, what do you want them to walk away believing about themselves?
I want you to know, women, I want you to understand, I don't care what age you are, you can accomplish what you want for you. You have to please get to the point where you are living your truth. Again, whatever that truth looks like, you are living it for you. And the other piece, you do need to have I say a tight circle. And when I say a tight circle of people around you, I mean, that circle is like two, three, four people. Not everybody in the world. Not everybody needs to know your business and what you're doing because everybody's not rooting for you. Some people are around you to hear what you're doing so they can be hoping, wishing, praying, whatever they do for your downfall. So understand
Mm-hmm.
who you can trust and start, and especially like when you've been married, start enjoying those tight friendships and having that time, having that girls' time, with other women and just enjoying them. But I want you to walk away knowing you can do what God has put into you to do. He's given us all something. You just have to identify it, not be afraid, surround yourself with people who can help make it happen.
I love that. Wow, that was a great message. So for people that potentially want to work with you, how can they find you? Your website, your social media?
Absolutely. Thank you, Leilani. For people who want to get in touch with me, so you can see me at my website. So it is yourbusinessproblemsolver.com. Again, that's yourbusinessproblemsolver.com. I'm also all on social media. I encourage you to follow me on social media. I'm always giving strategies and advice and things that you should be doing or consider doing with AI. So you can see me on, again, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, not so much on TikTok, but follow me there. And then also on my website, you'll be able to see I do like free virtual trainings. And here in Texas, I do in-person trainings. So you can follow when you go to my website, you'll be able to see I keep it updated of my trainings that I'm doing. If it's public or private, you'll be able to see that. Would encourage you to register. Please know I'm here to be a resource because you can do this. AI can be the equalizer to help you get to where you want to be.
I love that. What part of, you said Texas, what part of Texas are you in?
So I'm in, and I know, Leilani, you're in Houston. I'm a little bit south of
Yes.
you. I'm down in the Victoria, Texas
Oh,
area.
that's
So
not that far.
about an hour and a half south, but I'm getting ready to actually relocate to Austin. I'm looking forward to that. Again, me and my
Oh,
daughter are,
oh, cool.
she just graduated, so I'm getting ready to head to Austin here soon.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Austin is a beautiful place as well.
Yes, it sure is.
All right. Well, Terri, thank you so much for sharing your story, your wisdom, and your work. It was great connecting with you. I'm so happy that you joined me here on the podcast. And for everyone listening, if this conversation reminded you that this is a time to work smarter, build with more intention, and stop carrying everything alone, I invite you to stay connected to the Boss Women Network and CEOS Conversations, because Boss Women Network, we're here to create real conversations for women building in business, leading with purpose, and choosing themselves while making an impact. And we like to have successful women on the show to be able to lead the conversation so they can also give you tips so you can be inspired and learn from them and their journeys throughout the process. So I hope you learned something and keep watching upcoming conversations and connect with us at officialceos.com, or you can go to bosswomennetwork.com. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. So make sure to subscribe to the Boss Woman Network podcast, share this conversation with another woman in business, and leave a comment. And let us know what part of Terri's story resonated with you. All right. So until next time, thank you again for joining us and joining me on the podcast, Terri. I loved your story. It was great connecting with you and wishing you much success in everything you accomplished, you and your daughter.
Thank you.
Until
Same to
next time,
you, Leilani.
everybody. Thank you. Bye.